What is up, everybody? Welcome. It's gonna be a good one today. Hi, everybody in the chat. Brandon, Christopher, the one goalie, Sleepy Invaders. Welcome. Before at the top of this all, I always remind everybody, first of all, if you're in the stream right now, please click the like button. If you have any ability to do so, that would be very helpful. It doesn't take much and it helps me out a lot. So please do that right now. The second thing is, if you're watching this as a YouTube video and you're not subscribed already, please be sure to subscribe. It does help me out a lot. And if you've been a longtime subscriber, consider becoming a supporter. And in fact, we've got quite a few. Matt Perna renewed their membership. Thank you so much. Derek Berkey, what's up, buddy? They're super valuable membership. Thank you. These are facts. Thank you for your renewal. Everybody for the subscriptions, thank you guys so much. The support's been awesome. We've got obviously a lot of excitement around this topic of gunfighting, and I get asked almost every stream about tips for gunfighting, so I figured we may as well talk about it today. And that is the entirety of today's stream. I'm not sure it'll go for the full 2 hours. I hope we can cover this topic in about an hour and a half, give or take. But I want to break down what we're going to talk about. Okay, so as the description suggests, what we're going to talk about is the mechanics of gunfighting, including like proper form. We're going to talk about the sort of nuanced things to gunfighting and things to look out for. A lot of the stuff that I see that people do that are big mistakes is how they position their feet, shifting their weight. We can talk about, we'll spend most of the time talking about standing form, but we will also talk about kneeling form as well. I have a bit of a surprise for you guys in terms of how we're going to show that. So hopefully it works. I've not done it before on stream, so hopefully this works. So we'll cover essentially the actual physical aspects of proper gunfighting form. And I know that a lot of you, many of you, have been playing paintball for a long time. Some people, I know that there are some semi-pros that tune into the stream every so often. You might be surprised. You might learn something in that section. But after we talk about the mechanics of gunfighting, we'll then talk about the actual strategy behind gunfighting. When to gunfight, when to stay put, when to move, when to let your opponents take ground, so on and so forth. There's a lot to cover there, so hopefully we can cover it all. And just some of the things that I've learned in my time playing. And then the last thing we'll talk about, which is a bit of a, I don't want to say it's a tangent, but it's a little bit of a sidestep from that, which is talking about how to manage mental fatigue, which in my opinion, if you have proper form with everything you do within paintball, you will be less physically fatigued and therefore less mentally fatigued. But if you don't have that proper form, then everything else starts to suffer, right? So we're gonna talk about that. It's gonna be a good stream. So we're gonna have a great time. Christopher, SPL, I'll be there. Okay, NSL Golden State. Anyone? I will not be at Golden State. I will be at World Cup. All right. Okay. Mechanics. Physical mechanics. Now, this is the first time I've ever done this. A lot of times, Tonlo would know. Carlton Lewis in the chat will have seen me try to demonstrate this before on stream, but I have a little bit of a different way of doing this. And it's going to take me just a second to set up. But the first things I want to cover are how to hold your gun properly, which there is variations to this, right? But I'm always surprised at how few people, especially beginners to even like D2 players, try to mimic pro players. Okay, I guess I should have covered why I think I'm qualified to talk about this. So most of you know this already about me, but I've been playing tournament paintball since I was 14 years old. I'm 30 now. I've obviously taken breaks like everybody, but between that and going to the paintball combine, getting second overall and stats there, second in the breakout, first, actually, did I get first in anything? I don't think I got first in anything, but going to the Marcelo Margot clinic in 2017, Ryan Greenspan G2 clinic with Tyler Harmon and Rusty Glaze and Victor Gamboa, as well as playing semi-pro for during the 2021 season. So I have a lot of experience. I hope that that's sufficient. Okay, so please take what I say and try to apply it as best as you can. It will help you, I promise that. So give me just a second while I transition scenes here, and then we will get into it. So hang tight, guys. 1 second.
Okay. Is this gonna work? You guys hear me? You can hear me. Okay. I can't get too far away from the camera, so maybe I have to actually change this zoom a little. This is pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Take it. Don't mind the backyard. Don't mind the backyard. Okay. Can't be. You can see me. I hope you can hear me. Okay. I'm gonna actually test for. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Let me check the stream. Let me know. Okay. I'm hoping you guys can hear me, because I don't want it to break up. That's the biggest thing that I'm worried about. Let's see. Okay, sound is cutting in and out. Okay, here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna have to deal with it. Okay. Let me turn this off. Okay. We're dealing with the iPhone audio quality, okay? That's as best as I'm gonna do right now. Okay, and there are neighbors to the backyard that I want to be respectful of, so I can't be super, super loud, but hopefully you can hear me just fine. Okay, so a couple things. First, I know that there's a lot of videos out there. A few that come to mind are the Oliver Lang video as well as the Justin Rabikoff video. Okay, if you guys have ever seen that, some of those are like 10 years old. But Justin Rabikoff talks about this and your snap shooting. Ollie Lang, I think, essentially does the same thing, where he's like, you want to square your feet to the bunker, you want to bring this gun up to the slot of your shoulder, so on and so forth, right? And that's good. That's all fine and dandy. And certainly Oliver Lang and Justin Rabikoff are much better than I am, so I'm not gonna tell you otherwise. But if you watch a lot of pro players currently, the way in which you hold your gun and the way in which you snap out from your gun has kind of shifted a little. Okay, so let's imagine that I'm behind a bunker. It doesn't really matter which bunker for now. Okay, you do want your feet apart, but depending on which side of the bunker you're coming out of, you want to shift the foot in which direction you're wanting to come out slightly forward. Okay, I'm probably going to exaggerate it a little bit so you guys can see, but you want to shift your foot a little forward. Okay, I'm exaggerating. You don't necessarily want to be on your tippy toes, because that doesn't provide a lot of balance, but you want to have your foot firmly planted. Okay, I'm in a little bit of a squat. This is a little different than how some of you guys snap shoot, but I promise you this is going to help. Okay, especially when you're playing cans, because those are in my opinion, some of the hardest bunkers to snap out from. Okay, from there, you're going to do everything else that you know. You're going to bring this gun up to the slot of your shoulder, okay, straight in front of you, and then you're going to cross it over your face and bring your arm here. Now, I've shared some pictures in my Discord server of when I used to play, and you got this old, chicken wing thing that used to exist. But from this position, you want to kick that shoulder back, okay? The shoulder in which you're snapping out from, you want to have kick back. Okay, so when you bring your gun up, you have this straight edge between your foot all the way to your gun, okay? Well, however that looks. Again, I don't have a bunker to work with, but you get the idea, okay? Again, elbow underneath your tank. If you aren't able to put your elbow under your tank, it means that your gun is too low, okay? So I'm just, again, exaggerating. If my tank is too low on me, then I can't kick this elbow underneath comfortably, okay? So a lot of times when I do this, I bring this tank up to the top of my shoulder, essentially, okay? So that way when I snap out, I have a straight line with my eyes, straight down the barrel. Okay, the other thing to know, and a lot of this stuff, by the way, if you guys haven't followed my TikTok, a lot of this stuff that I'm covering right now is on my TikTok, but I figured I'd just cover it for those who haven't seen. The other thing to note is you should find out which eye of yours is dominant, okay? So I'm right-handed, probably going to be left from your perspective. I'm right-handed, but I'm left eye dominant. And the way that you can figure that out is if you pick I'm not going to demonstrate it because you can't see. Pick a target way off in the distance, like in the horizon if you can, okay? Make a triangle with your hands, and as you bring your hands super slowly back to your face, like this, you'll eventually bring your hands together in such a way that will reveal which eye is focusing on that target at distance, and that's how you're going to know which eye is dominant, okay? And that's important because I'm right-handed but I'm cross-eye dominant, it means I have to do something with my head to ensure that I'm not doing one of these, right? Because that would not be good, right? Then you're going to see this entire part of my face before I really am able to even focus on the target. So with my left hand, it's not a problem, right? with my left hand, I can get super tight, and I feel really good about that. But with my right hand, what I have to do is I have to tilt my head this way. So I pivot my head so that my left eye is what's primarily seeing down the barrel, not my right. Okay, because if my right eye is the farthest out, I can't really, all I'm seeing is the inside of my gun mostly. Okay, so bring your eye across. I know it doesn't look like much, but I promise in terms of being able to get a clear sight picture, being able to see your target and still keeping what I call as a slim profile, that's super, super important, okay? So before I continue, I gotta make sure you guys can hear me, so hold on. Okay, sweet. It sounds like you guys are able to hear me. Okay, perfect. So, we've got the footwork, okay? If you want to practice anything at home, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is transition guns and work on your footwork, okay? It's almost kind of like a fighter stance. I'm not a fighter, but I know people who are. And it's kind of like a fighter stance, right? You know, you're getting up, you're kind of in a boxing, like, hunched position. I know conventional wisdom for a long time was that you should have your feet squarely to the bunker. The problem with that is that when you do this, when you go to snap shoot, not only are you doing a pretty exhaustive oblique exercise and a core exercise generally, you're also kicking your body over your center of gravity, right? So my center of gravity is essentially a straight line, and I'm tilting my head in such a way that is throwing off that center of gravity. So instead, if I do this, now when I lean out, I'm keeping more of my core and more of my body in line with my center of gravity. It makes it a lot easier to snap shoot, and in my opinion, it's also much faster. Like, the difference between squaring up to your bunker and going like this, which granted I could do quickly, plus the fact that, you know, your hopper is kind of going weird, so you'd have to kind of do one of those. The other thing is the fact that, like, I can go really quickly. I use this foot to find out where the edge of the bunker is, right? If anybody's ever been to a Tyler Harmon clinic, what you essentially are looking for is that corner of the bunker where you plant your foot. That's the foot that you establish of where you want to snap from. And once that foot is planted, you know that's the line you're working with, okay? You want to get as close to that line as you can. Because if I'm really far in, I don't really have, I guess I can use this. We'll use this chair as an example, okay? I know the audio quality is not great, so bear with me. Okay, if my foot is not as close to this edge, I'll go like this. If my foot is, let's say this is the bunker, this is the edge of the bunker. If my foot's pretty in from that, well now, I'm in a center of gravity position, but when I lean over, I have to go a lot. I have to go a great distance to actually see that. Whereas if I plant it, if I look down, plant that foot, now when I come up, I'm just barely peeking, okay? Again, if you want to see how I gunfight against real people, go to my TikTok. There's a few videos there. Sweet. The next thing to talk about. I'm hoping that I can find the examples that I know exist. I just couldn't find it beforehand. But the next thing is, you want your shoulders, your chest, your head, all of that to move as little as possible, including your arms, okay? A huge mistake, and you can see it everywhere on the internet. A huge mistake that you see, even up as high as Division 2, is that people, when they snap shoot, will move their barrel a lot, right? How many of you guys have seen that? I don't actually call them anything. I think we should call them D3 heroes, but like, how many people do you see at your local field that are like D3, and the way they snap shoot is like this? How many people know a guy like that? I know a lot, okay? Now, the problems with this should be obvious. I'm exaggerating it, but like, there's a lot of people who snap shoot and their gun is moving like crazy, okay? The problem with that is obvious, that every time you move that barrel, especially when you go behind your bunker, you no longer have your established point of aim. You have to reset every time. And a lot of times what happens is people will whip their gun back out as they're coming out, and they'll overshoot, okay? So when you practice snap shooting, again, you can do this at home. When you practice snap shooting, look, my barrel's not moving. I'm rotating, I'm hinging on this axis of my core, right? I'm using this as the center linchpin point. I'm not sure what you call that. But I'm using this, and I'm swinging, okay? My gun is still upright. My head is barely exposed. My elbow's tucked in. Okay, and if you want to tuck your elbow in even further, you can bring your gun up higher and kind of play like a Tyler Harmon. Tyler Harmon does this. His gun's up here. But try to not pay attention to when you snap shoot. The best way to do it, in my opinion, sorry, I just had dinner. The best way to do it is to have a buddy watch you, especially from behind. And if your buddy's telling you, hey man, like you're swinging your gun way too much, then focus on slowing down. Slow down on your snap, and just focus on that. I wish I had bunkers. I don't. So there's a couple other things I wanted to mention before we go back to the table. As far as cans are concerned, cans are a straight line, right? They make them really hard. It's pretty hard to snap from a straight line because you can't really plant your foot, and when you do, that angle is always subject to change because the farther up the field they go, the more you have to kind of rotate around the bunker to be safe. So in my opinion, the easiest way to play in a can, especially if you have to play tight, is to just get up to the can on the side that you are snapping out from, okay? So let's say I was shooting this direction. I'm going to get as close to the can as I can and kind of put my feet together like this, right? If you watch Marcelo Margot, he does this all the time. The other thing you can do is this. Okay, so I'm leaning this leg into the can, and the key is to shift your shoulder as far back as you can, okay? Because now you're using the can at its essentially like apex point, I guess. And now I can follow the can around essentially its edge or its roundness. I can't think of the word. That's probably the easiest way. You'll see, I have a lot of pictures of it. Most people do. But that's a pretty natural way to play a can. Super important, okay? Get up to the can, kick this leg into it, and then when you snap, you're still holding that point of aim, okay? Let's see. Oh, Dorito. This is the biggest tip I always give to people, okay? Beginner players love or hate Doritos because for most people, the Dorito feels like a far bunker to snap from because you've got that harsh angle. But the key to that is to ensure that you plant your foot, like I said, right at the edge of that Dorito, right where it meets the ground. You want to plant your foot there. And the other thing is, where possible, especially if you're gunfighting, you want to, so I can't really demonstrate this for you exactly, but just try to follow along. So let's say I have this line here, okay? And my head is, I'm standing in a neutral position to that edge of the Dorito, okay? So that if I'm standing in this neutral position, I'm exposed to the guy in front of me, okay? Now, if I do this, this is allowing my body to be in a very natural, rested position while I'm staring right at my target, and I'm slim, you know, I have a slim profile is what I'm trying to say, okay? Super slim profile. Now, when I get into that gunfight, I will step back like this. So now I'm behind that line, okay? And then I'll snap out, and when I snap out, I come to that natural rested position. So rather than coming to the edge of the Dorito and being in the natural position and then having to go over that, which you can do, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times when I come up to a Dorito, like if I slid in, I will come up to it like this. I will come up to that Dorito like this. And then when I snap out, I am upright, okay? It's a really, really good way to save energy. Obviously, this is exhausting, but you don't do it for very long because you're coming out to snap. If you get put in or you're not able to battle, you might just reset your position, okay? Instead of coming out this, as far as you can get to that corner, you might just shift your foot in a little bit, get in that natural position so you're covered behind the bunker, and then snap out. But just know that that's a really good way to be super aggressive, and then when you snap out to gain control, you're already in a centered, natural, neutral position, I guess. Aztecs are pretty basic. We'll talk more about mini W's when we get to the computer. I guess we'll touch really quickly on kneeling and going prone. Okay? Again, these are all my TikToks, so if you want to know, if you want to see it in more detail, you can look there. Now, there's several camps of people that will swear by having the knee up on the side you come out, or having the knee down on the side you come out. I go back and forth. I think some bunkers feel more comfortable to come out with the side where the knee's down. A lot of times though, especially as of recently, I've been actually getting on 2 knees, which obviously doesn't allow you to get up and go as quickly, but if you look at like Alex Goldman, that man is always on 2 knees. So if you train for it, it's not a problem. Sorry, I'm sure you can hear my neighbors. So the key though, however, with any kneeling position is that you don't want to be squared to the bunker, okay? Because again, if I'm squared and this is the side I'm coming out from, I have a long ways to go before I actually clear that bunker. So especially if you're in like a snake cake or something, you actually, if this is the bunker, this line is right here. Here, let me use this chair. So I'll have it kind of angled so you can see. If this is my bunker and I was to get in a double kneeling position, I wouldn't do this, I would shift a little bit. So now I'm kind of pointed this direction to the bunker, and now when I shift my shoulder back, I'm a lot closer to snapping out, and I'm still using my knee essentially as my foot to be planted at the edge of a bunker, okay? The same is true if you put a knee up, okay? I'm still kind of turned outward. My hips are pointing this way so that I can, this is super awkward, so that I can snap out, but it just kind of depends. I find that this is easier to snap from if I have this knee down. This is easier to launch from, so if I snap, I can launch, but it's up to you. Both are fine. Okay, the last thing, prone, fighting from a prone position. And a lot of my advice that I give to people in one-on-ones, I tell them to get out of the snake because you don't want to be laying down, you don't want to be on your knees. The snake is a super submissive position. So, even though we're going to talk about ways to snap shoot from a laying down position, you don't want to gunfight if you can help it. So the first thing, you need to learn how to pigeon pose. Okay? A pigeon pose, I'm not sure what the best way is to show you this. Pigeon pose is when you take one leg, put it underneath you. That's a pigeon, okay? We literally do this stretch every practice. This is the key component to being able to snap shoot from a lay down bunker, okay? I'll turn to the side so you can see it. Actually, let me just double check you can see it. Okay, hopefully you guys saw the other stuff. Alright, so, pigeon pose. If I was to go this direction, my outside leg would be the one underneath me, okay? Because here's the snake beam, and I'm looking this way. This is the inside of the field, this is the outside, okay? Now the key is, when you get this leg underneath you, all I'm really engaging is my lower back, and I'm using my leg strength to hold me up. Okay, this is like a core tenet of playing the snake. So, when I get to this position, bring my gun up to the gun ready position, and now I can snap. For some of you that will be very, very difficult. For some of you it won't. So, if it's hard, if snapping from a pigeon pose is exhausting, just do that at home, okay? Again, leg underneath you, gun in the gun ready position. You want your gun upright instead of like this. Gun upright. Make sense? That's how you snap shoot while laying down. Okay. See, we covered cans, Doritos. Aztecs are pretty straightforward. Aztecs are probably everybody's favorite bunker to snap from because the line of the bunker naturally follows your elbow, but not much to say there. Let's see. I think that's it. So let's go back to the table.
Woo. Oh man, that was a good workout. Okay, let's answer any questions. This is a good time to take a pause. Hey, I got 40 people. I got 40 people watching this and only 26 likes. It does help me out a lot if you guys like this. Okay. Whew. Gotta catch my breath. This is such a good tip for Doritos, like a reverse snap almost. Never heard that, but I'm definitely going to try it to incorporate it. Woo. Tell your neighbor to challenge you to a one-on-one hopper ball. Dude, I'd crush those people. Never heard that about Dorito Gunfight. Very cool idea. Question 1, what's in the tumbler? Water. Just water. Okay, well, whew, I'm super sweaty. All right, we covered the mechanics. I hope you guys learned something from that. Honestly, guys, if you use your phones, if you just go buy like the stand that I used was like 25 bucks. If you go buy an iPhone stand and after practice you challenge somebody to a gunfight, send it to me in the Discord server and I will absolutely give you feedback. Okay, that's a promise that I make to everybody on my Discord server. If you want my input, join the Discord server. How to snap coming out super low without laying down. Honestly, the best person to watch for that is Harrison Fry. And all I can really tell you is that if you do that, you have to be on both of your knees. And all you're really doing is like essentially sitting your butt on the backs of your legs. And then if you need to get lower, oftentimes you're going farther and farther back. Because you don't want to go forward. Going forward is super awkward and puts you off balance. But if you pull backwards, that's easier to snap from. He's not lying at all. He's super active in Discord. It's great. I am very active. Okay, let me turn on the fan 1 second. Man, that was exhausting. Okay. AKA, or Harrison, AKA Gumby. I play every Sunday, but only walk on rec ball. Sad. Join the Discord. We have candy. Wink, wink. Okay, now we've talked about that. Let's talk about the strategies and things to consider for gunfighting, okay? There's some tips to understand or ways that you can essentially mind game your opponent and ways to keep yourself safe. So we're going to talk about that. Dude, pigeon pose. Dude, actually, I'll be honest. The pigeon pose wasn't as bad. All of it was... The pigeon pose, I actually do try to practice quite a bit, but it was everything else that was like super exhausting. So let's see, we get a lot of pros and semi-pros that pop out from practice and slaughter the open play matches. I feel like that's, I mean, what are their choices, right? Okay, now I promise this isn't a layout review, so please don't just click away. There's a lot of important things that we're going to talk about. We could really use any layout to do this, but we're going to use this layout. Okay, went to the garage and followed along. Pigeon pose was challenging, but a new tool for me to use. Hadn't used that before. Yeah, the pigeon pose is, that's the key, dude. If you watch Chad George, Ronnie Dizon, literally any pro player in the snake, the pigeon pose is the key. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of these things that we're going to touch on in very disparate ways throughout the stream. So I'm sorry for some of you who are hearing me repeat myself, but these are very, very important things to consider. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about these in the context of essentially 1v1s, okay? But you still have to consider what's on the opposite side of the field. Let's see. Pigeon pose feels good. Yeah, you're stretching while shooting. Absolutely. I have a huge one. What's the best way to get as much information on the field as you can without doing a walk around before? I played a new field this weekend, and they had us straight into playing. To be honest with you, the only way that you can put together what you're supposed to do is through experience in that case. But honestly, every paintball player should be doing at least a little yoga. Oh man, you should do a Zoom call with people and go over some of these moves. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go into this. So we're gonna talk about gunfighting in the sense that you have a true heads-up gunfight, that in order for you to get past your bunker, you have to win that gunfight first. Okay, just keep in mind that every time we beat the guy in front of us, we have to consider what is going to stop us after that. So it's usually requiring us to wrap on the inside of the field and shoot the guy behind that guy, right? So in the case of us playing this layout, even though we may beat this dude in a one-on-one or heads up, we would need to consider what this guy's doing and where his paint's coming from. This bunker obviously blocks that, but just remember that's a given. We're not talking about that, okay? So the first thing to consider, okay? when people challenge, there's a few things that you should keep in mind, okay? We could probably write these down, but I'm going to just challenge you guys to write these down. You should never come out of the same angle more than 2 times, okay? If you come, I mean, you can get away with 3 in some cases, but very likely the higher up the divisional rank, or the higher up the ranks you go, the more risky this becomes, okay? You should only ever come out of your bunker twice, okay? In the same spot. The way that I look at this is the more times you come out of your bunker in the same spot, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the higher the chance, the higher the percent chance that you will get shot. GS, okay? So let's say, for example, that in a truly even match, the first 2 snaps is 50%. Okay? 50% he'll shoot you the first time, 50% he'll shoot the second time. It's not really that high in the first snap, but it's paintball, and this isn't an empirical science, okay? But if you come out that third time, this very often jumps up as high as 75 to 80%. Okay? If you get to 4, 5, and 6, their chances of shooting you, unless they're just really bad, is 85% plus. And the only deviation you're going to find there is the other player's fatigue. I'm not going to draw this. The other player's fatigue, the quality of the paint, did they chop a ball, so on and so forth, right? But like this number kind of flattens at a certain percentage. And I would even argue it's probably even as high as like 90%. Okay? A lot of the kills that I get when I practice are just people coming out of the same angle, and I just put paint there. So it only takes one win to beat that guy for me to then just shoot paint right there. And if he's stupid, then he'll come back out into it. Okay? But it's just because people don't keep in mind how many times they've come out of the same spot on a bunker. Okay? That's something that's very, very important to consider. The next thing is that in order for me to talk about this next principle, which I think is probably the biggest secret, in my opinion, to winning gunfights, is you need to consider what the obvious next angle would be if you were to challenge somebody, okay? Now, the easiest thing, I mean, we could use an Aztec as well, but this is just an easy one. So let's say you came to this Dorito on your feet, okay? Your feet are planted, and you challenge from this angle. And we'll call this angle number 1. It's helpful to mark these, okay? And you challenge that twice. And then, in order to surprise the guy, you transition down, because it's easy to kind of go into a squat, and you take this second angle. Well, these first 2 shots might have been, like I said, 50-50s. But if you do this, if you go from the first angle to the second angle, your chances of getting shot here are like 80%. And why is that? Why does that happen? I would challenge you guys, when you go to watch raw footage, pay attention to how many times people do this. How many times people go from the first position to the second position. And this can be reversed, okay? We can start here at the bottom of the Dorito and go to the top and just reverse those numbers, and the percent chance is still the same. Now, this is not true for people in Division 5 and Division 4. This isn't true for that division. But it starts becoming true in Division 3, and it is essentially a bread and butter thing to avoid in Division 2. And then so on and so forth, right? And the only reason that people don't get shot, the higher up the divisions you go in this scenario, is because people are metagaming each other, okay? Which we will talk about a little bit later. So I realize there's a lot of numbers, but this is the easiest way to think of this, okay? This is the first angle. This is the second angle. Those can be swapped. You can come low first. Going low first is probably a little less predictable, but the only problem is that people's balls will drop, right? So if they are slightly inaccurate, they're likely to hit you in a lower position than they are in a higher position. So if we take this first angle, we should not take this second angle, and instead we should always go for what I call the third angle where possible. Okay? This is if you need to beat the guy in front of you and you've got to push the field, okay? This is a trick that only works in the same matchup so many times, but it works against everybody at least once, okay? So if you have a new Dorito player that you're playing against, this works every single time. Your chances of getting shot taking this angle, the third angle, are like 20% or less. And the only reason that would happen, that you get shot, is because the home guy's already got paint coming your way in this direction, or you challenged this right away. Okay, so you kind of have to earn the third angle, in my opinion. You can't just you can't just get to your Dorito and instantly go here, because the home guy or whoever's on the inside of the field is going to be shooting at you from this direction, right? They're already shooting paint. So it doesn't take anything for them to put some paint right here. But oftentimes the home people or the guys on the inside of the field are going to be putting their paint here on you. Okay, but it's still worth it so that you don't just give this guy free reign to just take the bite right after he gets to his Dorito. It's always better to come here and either challenge from here or here. That should be your very first move so that you contain your guy that's heads up. I do that all the time. I feel super predictable. Yes. So the key here is that... Oh, wait. I'm kind of dark. That's okay. The key here is to earn that third angle. So even if we started here and we went here, the third angle is going to be up here. Okay? This is always going to be the third angle. This is the fourth angle down here. And this is true for literally every bunker. And this is especially true in the wings. Okay? The wings are probably the easiest way to illustrate this point. So on the wings, we have first angle, second angle. I'm just going to write these. 2, 3, and 4. You could argue this is its own angle, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to label these as first and second. And again, remember, this could be first, this could be second, but whatever angle you go to first is considered the first angle or the first position. And why is that? That's because people, if they see you take that angle, that's where they know you to be. Okay, so that's the first appearance that you've given your opponents. So that's why we call it the first angle. Okay. So if you come up over the top of the bunker and that's the first time your opponent has seen you, the obvious and predictable thing to do would be to just come out here right after. And this is what we would refer to as the second angle. This is always the predictable thing to do. And this is the thing that Division 4 people and Division 3 people really struggle with to not do. Even as high as semi-pro, I see this all the time. Even Justin Rabikoff did this on a James D video that I could probably pull up here in just a minute. It was, granted, it was practice at a tournament. They were playing on Thursday, but this is one of those things where like you really need to like think more about how predictable you are when you fight people. Because remember, if you're a snake guy and you win this, let's say you win this heads up battle, so you now have dominance right here. Okay, we're gonna say D for dominance. If you have dominance right here, what's the thing that's gonna really ruin your day? It's if he comes up over the top and shoots down at your hopper. Okay. If he stands up right here and clips your hopper, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. And that happens a lot in Division 3. But when you get in Division 2, then what happens is if you win this, if you win this fight and you gain dominance, people instantly start putting paint up here. Okay? So you shoot heads up, you win that, and you earn it, and then you shoot the second angle. Okay? In Division 2 and 3, high Division 3 and Division 2, this is an obvious angle. For everybody in that division, this is super obvious. This is the go-to butter move. People go here, and then they come here. Okay, that's the way that they try to win back the heads-up battle. But I am submitting to you that you should skip the second angle, whichever it may be. It might be here, it might be here, and you should instantly go to the third angle. Okay. Now there's a game. I think it's the New England Hurricanes. Last year, I think it's World Cup. I could be wrong. It might be the second to last event of the year. Sorry, there's a little fly buzzing around. There's a point in which I think Benny Carroll is in the snake, and he does this exact thing, and he actually wins the heads-up battle. He challenges from this angle, gets the guy to flinch. As soon as he flinches, he instantly transitions here and stands up and shoots the guy. Shoots the guy in his hopper. Actually, does he shoot him in his hopper? I don't remember if he kills him then, but I know he pushes and they win the point. That was a really, really, really clutch play, okay? This is the king. The third angle is the king. Okay, always go to it second. Holy cow, Batman! I was just talking about how this with my wife. Wing has 4 shooting positions. Absolutely, and it's true for every bunker. Okay, so even if we were to look at a can, depending on which angle you came from, this is. Oh, excuse me. If you stood up tall and came out of this position, that would be angle 1. The next angle would be here. And what I mean by next angle is this. We have to. Oh my gosh, this freaking fly. This is the second angle because this was the first. It's always going to clear one side of the bunker, then go to the next, okay? If this was the first angle, this is the second angle. But regardless, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, okay? If you did it reverse, it would be this is 2, this is 1, this is still 3, and this is 4, okay? Because nobody's really going to consider you. Like, for example, if you go here as your first angle, this is not the obvious transition. Hey, Colin McNatt, thanks for the sub, buddy. I appreciate it. Nobody's gonna think that this is the third angle, right? Oh my gosh, this Nat. The problem with it is he's buzzing right in my face and he's getting right in the microphone. So I'll do my best not to swat at him, but I apologize. This is true for pretty much every other bunker on the field. Okay, this is true for this bunker. Now the trick here with this bunker is that this is an angle. This is also an angle, and then this is an angle. This is an angle. So as far as what ends up being the third and fourth here is really kind of tricky, because generally speaking, this would probably be the fourth, this would be the third, because you're probably not going to come out from one of these two spots and immediately transition all the way to the left. Most of the time, people will go from here to then go here, right? Excuse me. They'll go here and then here. And you could argue that in this case, in the case of the wedge, this could be the second angle you take, and that could also be the second angle you take. So, but in a heads-up battle, people aren't usually going for this spot because this requires you to get really low, and it becomes more and more difficult to wrap. So in this case, it might be that this is the second angle, because this is literally the angle everybody takes after they challenge for the first time. How many times have you guys watched raw footage or an NXL event where somebody jumps up over the top of a wedge after they gunfight? It's true with a brick, right? Same thing as here. Everybody does this all the time. They'll come out here. We could actually make this a little more precise. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3, kind of. But everybody comes here, and then they go up over the top. So, and actually, in this case, you might even argue that this is the first angle, this is the third angle, and this is the second. And I guess what I didn't really mention with this is that a lot of this is based on what is the most predictable move afterwards, okay? So, and you could argue that this angle over here, or you might even be like, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. You could probably break it up that way, so that if you were to come out and fight this guy right here, if you were to transition over here and come up over the top like that, that would be very surprising, because he's going to put paint right here. I can't tell you how many times, like Nick Sloviak is really good at shooting the predictable shot. It's hard to describe why I know that. But Nick Sloviak is like the king of shooting this shot when he's putting somebody in off of this angle. Okay, and a lot of pro players are too. So just be aware of that. Okay, in my opinion, you should always take the third angle. Okay. Is this all in regards to 1v1s? No, this is in regards to anybody you're fighting heads up, okay? So obviously, if you're shooting somebody cross field, this doesn't matter. This doesn't apply. But if I needed to beat this guy in the Doritos and I was really struggling and I had to do something to win the point, I would take this third angle right here, right? Now, again, you have to be careful, because you have to check off essentially these people that are on the inside of the field. You have to know what paint's coming at you. But if you make this move in the early game, so like let's say, for example, let's say, because the other thing we need to talk about, which I'm getting ahead of myself and I don't want to just yet, but the other thing that we can do to become a better gunfighter is to inform our gunfighting, or to add context to it. So in the case that we're down, let's say we're down 1 to 4, okay? We'll say it doesn't matter how much time we have left. We're down 3 points. I would feel the need and the pressure to expedite this push. Okay, and the way that I would feel that, or the way that I would accomplish that, is I would get into my bunker, instantly try to win the heads up, and if I struggled to, I would take this third angle. Whether I challenged down here or down here, I would take this third angle, and as long as I'm in the early game, okay, this is really important, as long as I'm in the early game, that move is almost guaranteed to be safe, because the home guy, you should know whose paint's coming at you, and nobody's going to be far up the field on the snake side, such that this becomes really, really risky, right? The middle guy, he might be in the center 50, and that would probably be the biggest thing that would kill you if you just took this outright without checking it off. But otherwise, as you get to the mid game and as you get to the late game especially, oops, that's a 4. As you get to the mid game and the late game, that inside check off to shoot this guy is way more dangerous, and it's not free anymore. You have to like actually look cross field, and you have to look heads up, and then you can do it. The problem is that what you don't want to do is you don't want to slice this bunker, okay? And that's the other thing we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts, okay? And a lot of these you can avoid if you actually put in the practice to walk the field and to run gauntlet drills. And what gauntlet drills are is to have essentially targets set up, which again, I know some people can't do this because they don't own, the field owner doesn't allow them to, or whatever, and that can become really tricky. So I understand that that's a restriction or a limitation for some people. But what you're going to do is you're going to set up targets in every single bunker that you're going to find yourself in. If you're playing a Dorito, if you're playing the number 1 or 2 on the Dorito side, you're going to set up a bunker, or excuse me, set up a target where the person would be if you were to fight them at the very beginning, right? So if I slide into my bunker, I need to shoot this guy straight ahead of me. So I would set a target there, and I would set a target somewhere on the inside of the field. This is not a great one, but I would set a target somewhere on the inside of the field to then check off and shoot that with like 1 ball or 2 balls or whatever, and then I'd take the bite and rinse and repeat, right? You're going to set up all these sorts of targets. That's called the gauntlet. But here's a do and don't, okay? In order to increase your survivability, you need to know where those targets are before you come out of your bunker, okay? Especially when you're playing on the outside of the field. If you're still head checking to see where your target is, even though you know they're in the Dorito 1 and you're trying to acquire your shot with your eyes, you're gonna lose to good Division 3 players, okay? You need to know where that guy is behind your bunker. And there's several ways to do that. One is just practice, like run the field, play points, try to have your gun set up in a ready position and then come out, right? If you have to, you can head check, but you really want to get away from head checking, okay? When I played the Dorito 1 in World Cup last year against semi-pro teams, and it was, I mean, all the teams that we played last year, the only way I could ever beat people is if I came out with my gun blazing and my paint was on. And that's how you have to play. That's the thing you're trying to work towards. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to slowly edge out and acquire more and more information, okay? I hope this is making sense. What you don't want to do is essentially what military and SWAT CQB and police CQB teach you, which it's because it's different, right? That's life or death. You have to check off everything that's dangerous to you. But in this case, you don't want to like slowly edge around your bunker to find out what's in front of you, because if you do, you're going to get gogged, right in the face. Somebody's just going to sit there and wait for you. And if you guys have ever looked on the inside of your bunker when you're on the outside of the field and just gotten shot in the face by the guy in the middle, it's because you were edging around the bunker. That's what was happening, okay? And so let's see, what was the other thing I was going to say with this? So make sure that you know where those targets are roughly. If you have to, if you are like, I don't remember, or for whatever reason I can't seem to remember where this middle guy is, you can always go low, okay? Get down on your all fours, get down on your knees, and then head check really quickly. And if you do it very low, you're very safe doing that, okay? Super, super safe. You watch Tyler Harmon do this a lot. If you watched him in his last event that he played with Dynasty, where he was essentially manhandling the Dorito side, like almost single-handedly, that's what he was doing. He was getting really low and head checking to see where the middle guy was, because that was a really complicated layout, World Cup 2020. And so he had to do that, okay? Okay, so we talked about don't slice the pie when you're playing paintball. We talked about always choose the third angle. We talked about avoiding head checking. Like try to just remove head checking as much as you can in your gunfighting. It's not helpful. I guess now we can start talking about you got to pre-fire. Yes, so I guess that was the other thing. You should not be shooting at things that you see. You should be shooting where you think people will be, okay? So when you play at a high level, you're not shooting paint at the targets that you see or where you think people are, okay? Not always the case, right? In some cases, you're shooting zones to prevent people from moving up the field. In other cases, you're shooting at bunkers where you think people are, or you're just trying to apply pressure to some portion of the field. This is especially true as the number 2 and the number 3. But even as the number 1, if you're kind of halted for a second and you know that this inside shot isn't really safe because maybe the home guy is shooting at you, it's always okay to own some part of the field, some inside shot of the field where you're not getting hit, and just start shooting paint. Like just start peppering the corner bunker, right? If I was in this position and I could not make any sort of forward progress, all I would do is I would just pull back. I would get intel on what's on this snake corner, and I would just start shooting paint right here. I'd just start pumping paint. Maybe I'd shoot some balls here, but I'd just start pumping a ton of paint. And what you'd find is that if you just have paint down range, you're going to prevent a lot of people from making moves freely, okay? Because what does this shot do? If I were to shoot this paint right here, well, not only does it apply pressure to whoever's in this corner, I might even get a kill off of it because somebody's standing up over the top, which has happened even in our scrimmages against like Seattle Thunder when I was playing the Dorito 1 for the first time in forever. I was getting cross-field shots and kills because those guys were playing up over the top of their bunkers and wasn't thinking that shot existed. But if I send paint in this zone right here, that makes it so that the dude who would have taken the bite up to the Seattle, we'll call it the Seattle. So this is, we'll say this is Seattle, and this is we'll just for the sake of this, we'll call this Houston. Okay, if I'm sending paint in this zone, It's say this is the number 2 in the snake and this is the number 3. Well, now, I mean, surely these two people can see that paint coming that way. But now this move is not free anymore. This big bite is no longer free. Okay? They might even be thinking, holy crap, they're shooting this gap. Like, I can't believe they're even thinking of doing that. Right? So, third angle exposure, let's cure the illness. Absolutely. So, make yourself useful if you're not able to make forward progress. Okay? But in the meantime, or otherwise, try to win your fight. Now, the key to winning or to being able to move in the very beginning of the game as a front player, this is true for the snake for the most part, but we're going to use the Doritos because they're easy to illustrate this with. The key to being able to win and push early is that first slide. However efficient you are with your sliding and diving, and how efficient you are at planting your foot is going to make or break your ability to win this fight. Okay? Because in a truly equal matchup where you are just as good as the guy ahead of you, the difference is going to be how well you launched off the gate, and the difference is going to be how well you planted your foot and how well you slid on the ground, right? And those milliseconds, those fractions of a second are going to be the difference between you already having a ball sent down range to them as they're coming out of their bunker. And obviously, that skill gap is even greater when you're talking about, you know, pro players versus semi-pro players, or semi-pro versus Division 2 or Division 3, and so on and so forth, right? The difference between a pro player and a Division 3 player has everything to do with all of those things leading up to before they shoot their shot. And that's the reason why practicing your fundamentals is super, super, super important, okay? I can't stress enough. It is so very important that you practice your fundamentals if you can. And if you can't at your field, you should do it at home. And this is only for people who want to get better, right? If you just want to play paintball and have fun, that's totally cool. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But if you want to actually get better and you care about getting better and you want to stop losing to the guy in front of you, that's how you win, okay? As far as proper form when it comes to diving and all that kind of stuff, I plan to do that in a YouTube video at some point, or in a TikTok at some point, but we're not going to do that right now. So let me pull up. This is a good video to use for this. So this is a practice that I did during the fires that we were having. So that air that you're seeing is literally fire. Trying to remember if this is. No, these are the ones I was getting better and better. So. Okay, this is a good way to illustrate this. So, you want there to be 3 steps at most that you take when you slide. Now, the other rule of thumb is every single bite you take in the Doritos, especially, but in pretty much every bunker, you should always be sliding unless you plan to run with your gun up. Okay? Unless you plan to shoot at somebody. But a mistake that I see all the time with Dorito players is they'll always move from one bunker to the next with their gun up, and that's not always the play. Okay, so you should always practice making these kinds of moves with your gun down. So the key is, and now the mistake I'm making here is I should actually have my eyes down range, and this is true when you're running off the break. But just for the sake of illustration, pay attention to my slide and pay attention to how many steps I take. Fundamentals like hopper dumps, right? Absolutely, dude. If you're not practicing dumping loads of hoppers on the ground when you beat your opponents, then I don't know what you're doing, dude. It's not the right thing. I can tell you that. Okay, so watch this. So here's my slide. Okay, can I slow this down? It's okay. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. Did you see that? Watch my feet. Here we go. Slide. 1 foot. 2 foot, 3 foot. And that third foot, this isn't even that great of an example, and I get better at it over the course of this practice, but you want to have at most 3 steps, because you need to have those 2 steps to stand up and stabilize your balance, and then the third one to plant at the edge of the bunker. So if you practice that, that'll allow you to get to your bunker and win your heads up battles, okay? Because if you guys have heard me talk at length on anything related to paintball IQ or movement in the early game, it is that movement in the early game is the safest movement to make. In the mid and late game, movement is a lot more dangerous because people's positioning they've changed, right? So it becomes a lot less safe to just take bites freely. But if you can make a move out of your primary and into your secondary within the first 10 seconds of the point, you will very likely that'll be the safest point in which you can do it, okay? So now you can see me like trying to practice being in a kneeling position and snapping and stuff. The wind was really, really bad and the paint was not great. So how should you slide into Doritos? Sideways, knees, belly, what? So it kind of depends. I think that any sort of Dorito that's close to you or any bunker that's very lateral to your position should always be a lateral slide, okay? Should always be sliding on your knee with your arm down so that you can come up in a quicker, because you want to get up fast, right? And getting up from a Superman dive is much slower than doing it from a kneel. And if you want to watch somebody who's really good at that, if you especially follow Quitski on Instagram, you'll see a lot of footage of like Ronnie Dizon doing that. There's one video in particular that I'm thinking of where he's like literally dodges a ball right above his head and then gets in a stand-up position and transitions. It's really good. So the next thing, I didn't really talk about it outside, which I meant to, was like the thing you also want to practice is making sure that when you stand up to fight somebody, that you have your weight equally distributed, okay? With maybe perhaps your weight slightly over the foot that's coming out of your bunker, okay? But that's why, like, if you don't have your feet planted correctly and your weight's kind of off or whatever, and you come to snap out, it is going to be very, very hard to shoot the guy that you're aiming at. It's going to be super, super difficult. So the more you can practice getting, see, like you can even see that I do it here, right? Watch how my weight is on my heels on my right foot. See that? My toes up. And I'm trying to take this shot quicker than I should have because I didn't have my weight planted and my feet equally distributed. So I'm actually pulling back from the bunker, which is not good. You don't want to do that. So it's important to talk about sliding into our bunkers and winning that battle before we talk about anything related to like strategy and other sorts of mind game meta tactics and stuff like that, okay? So we could watch this, forever, but I think you guys get the point. I binged Dizon and Matty Boy. I just wasn't sure about off the break. Let's see. I'm great at slide cancels and getting into shooting positions. Can't Superman slide, only baseball slide though. You should definitely incorporate Superman sliding in your game because the deeper you need to go or the faster you need to go, the more likely it is you need a Superman, right? It's just you're already in the mindset of being fast when you're thinking about diving into a bunker head first, but it does require some practice and you don't want to hurt yourself, but you should absolutely do that. It would be a very limiting factor to you as a player if you couldn't do it. And like, I don't mean to be rude here or anything like that, but part of the problem or part of the difficulty with bigger players is just the fact that they are very limited in the types of movements they can make, and some of the movements that they are required to make it safely, to make their move safely, are Superman diving and knee sliding and all this kind of stuff, right? And so your window of opportunity is a lot smaller the less mobility things you can do, okay? I think you guys get the point with this, but let me read chat here really quick. Too old for Superman slides. I'm 31. Dude, I'm 30, okay? Chill. I'm not too old for Superman slides. I'm 30 in this video. Actually, no, I'm 29. So you're not too old. Unless you just like absolutely abused your body at some point, you're not too old. Doing sliding drills really helped me out. Yeah, that's the thing. You just gotta do the drills, right? You just have to do them. Did a 1v1 while I was at home. Can during 2v2 drills. Hardest thing ever. Add a baby can. Nice. Let's see. Just wrapping the pigeon pose. It's easy, man. There you go. Just wrapping the pigeon pose, dude. Blah, blah, blah. I do them all the time now. Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about mechanics. We've talked about some do's and don'ts and like the basics of gunfighting. I think the third angle is going to help you guys out a lot. But now let's talk about when should I gunfight? When should I chill? When should I move? When should I not? So on and so forth. Okay. Now, admittedly, the snake is quite a bit different. Well, actually, all three sides of the field are quite a bit different. So it's hard for me to really talk about this point without just doing each side of the field, which I'm happy to do. Ryan Greenspan is around 800 years old. So yeah, I mean, Ryan Greenspan is as old as Bilbo Baggins. I think you're fine. Okay. So let's talk about the Dorito side first. Okay. Now we want to know, when should we take this bite? Now, if we got to inject some context into this. And the more context we inject in this, the more this question can change, or the answer to this question can change. And so all I really ask of you guys is to just critically think about it, right? Ask yourself, does it make sense for me to move in this situation? And then apply it, right? Try to practice this and find out. So if the score is 0-0 and you know nothing about your opponents, and you take a dive into this Dorito, and you saw that heads up your guy is also taking this dive to the Dorito 1. Everything is perfectly equal. You should take the bite in a straight up read and react sort of way, okay? So in a 0-0, you should read and react every single time, okay? Now, read and reacting means that when you win that gunfight, when you read that you won the gunfight, you need to react to it, which means you need to take this bite almost every time. Almost every time. And this is especially true in the early game, okay? If it's taking you, you know, 25, 30 seconds into the point and everybody's kind of slowed down, nobody's making any quick bites off the break, you've now entered the mid game, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch my literally front, mid, and back player guides. But after you leave the early game, this bite is no longer free, and you absolutely have to be very diligent at finding out where the middle guy is. You can take this bite by simply shooting heads up and then wrapping and going. Oh, one other thing I failed to mention when slicing the pie, just really quickly, is the additional mistake that people make is that when they shoot, especially on the inside of the field, if you start shooting cross field and then just wrap this angle to shoot the home guy, that's a really easy way to get your head blown off, because people are already going to see if the middle guy is staring at you, he already knows that you're looking this way because your paint is shooting that direction, and all he has to do is just aim his gun right here and shoot you when you come out, okay? So if you plan to challenge from the inside, like after you shoot the corner, you need to transition lower, okay? And then you need to shoot at the home guy. Get him to flinch and then go. Okay, there's also the third angle thing was also, Trevor Reeser talked about it, which is his take is go high then go low or something like that. The high then low, I don't know, remember. But in a one-on-one, especially trying to get into the snake, you can shoot high and then go low and almost take that bite for free if you explode out of your bunker. So anyway, something to consider. Okay, let's go back to things to make us a better, more well-informed gunfighter. Okay, so 0-0, we already said read and react. In the early game, you can take that bite almost instantly, but you do need to check off where the number 2 is. Okay, generally speaking, especially in lower divisions, like up until Division 3, the middle guy is going to do a lot of stuff from the back center. And so if you don't see paint coming right here towards you, then you're usually pretty safe to just wrap on the guy behind the dude you're fighting. So if this is the number 1, this is the number 2. As soon as you beat this dude, all you do is just check this guy off, shoot some paint, and then take the bite, and rinse and repeat, okay? This isn't a 0-0 sort of situation. Now, to inject more context into this, let's say that, I'm not saying this is true for this field, but let's say that this bunker, this Dorito 3, was like the game-breaking bunker, that if we got here, then we could win the game like 80% of the time. Well, that's a situation in which, well, in pretty much every situation, you're going to want to fight to get here as soon as possible. Because if you can get here, the sooner you can get here, the sooner you can win the point. Okay? But if you're playing against an equally educated team that's privy to that information, then they're going to start creating game plans around stopping you from taking that bunker early. Okay? So let's just use a hyperbolic example. Let's say that there's a Division 2 team here that's playing against a Division 3 team. The Division 2 team knows this bunker can kill, like, let's say 3 bunkers. As soon as they get here, they eliminate 3 players. Or they at least have the potential to eliminate 3 positions off the field instantly, okay? And let's say the Division 3 team does not know that. Well, the Division 2 team on the Dorito side is going to be hyper-aggressive trying to get to this position so long as they can do so. So long as they're able to get to that bunker, okay? And that's the reason why when we walk fields and I star the bunker and I say this is a key bunker, it's because if you try to fight your way to get into this bunker, you're almost always going to be in the right, okay? It's almost always worth it to risk your body to get in this position because, you know, once you get there, you kill 3 people. Now, the Dorito 3 is kind of like, well, that's pretty far up the field. It makes sense, right? Like, we could say that about the 50, right? If you get to the 50, you kill people. That's how it works, right? Or if you get to their Dorito 4, you kill like 5 people, then are you telling me I should just gunfight my way up to the Dorito 4? But you have to be judicious about this, right? Meaning that, like, yeah, we know the 50 is like the kill zone, right? Get to the 50, you kill him. And sometimes that's not true, but that's why we have to star key bunkers. And part of the thing that we're evaluating with key bunkers is we're trying to assess how easy it is to get to those bunkers, or what are the major hurdles to getting to that bunker. So even though it's pretty obvious that, like, the Dorito 4 or the Dorito 3 on any bunker, any field is going to be the key bunker to get to, it's not always the case, okay? And I think I can give you a pretty good example of that. So, well, it's on like a random league though, unfortunately. I think it's this Independence layout that we looked at the other day. I know that it's true for the snake, and it might play out differently. I'll be honest. Like this layout might play out differently, but like, okay, let's say. So how many Doritos are we in? We're in 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're gonna say this baby Dorito is Dorito 2. This is Dorito 3. This is Dorito 4. If I get to this Dorito, who is it that I kill for free? Who do I eliminate? Do I kill the can for free? Probably not. If he's playing heads up, I'm not gonna see him. Maybe I kill this guy. If the snake decided to stop at this juice box, maybe. I'm not killing this guy. So it's like, okay, I took all of this real estate. I'm in the Dorito 4. Like, if we want to win the point, we need to advance on the field. But not every bunker, not every layout is equal. Just because I got to the Dorito 4 doesn't really mean that I did anything with that. And so that's why we assess what bunker is the key bunker that's going to really blow open a point. And in the case of the last layout we looked at, it's kind of the Dorito 3, right? Like, or I'm just using that as an example. And so if you can identify which of the bunkers are key bunkers that you eliminate the most players out of, then you need to figure out what's going to stop you from getting there and try to get to there as quick as possible. Okay. Now, again, when people start to inject, when you start playing in higher divisions, you have to make some assumptions about people's knowledge of the field. Okay. When you're in Division 2, you can pretty well assume that a lot of teams know the basics of which bunkers are key on any field, okay? Because usually Division 2 teams are backed by really good coaches, have, you know, either pros or people who've been coaching for a long time. That's typically true of Division 2 teams. So if you knew that this bunker was good, then you could probably assume that your opponents know this as well. And why did we go through all of this? Why did I say any of this? That is because some bites are not going to be free, even though you beat the guy in front of you, okay? So the thing that we say, and that a lot of teams say, is you should always play as if the middle is hot, as if the center 50 is hot. That will keep you safer more often than not, okay? And so what that means is, even though I know I need to get to the Dorito 3 as quickly as possible, it really might mean that I can only take these these first bites really quickly and easily, but then this second bite I have to be very, very careful about, okay? I believe World Cup 2021 had a layout like this. It might have been, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was World Cup 2021. And in fact, let me see if I can pull that up really quick. So if it's not World Cup, it's Windy City. But let me see if it's World Cup. It has the two wedges on the Dorito side that are kind of inset and around the 40-yard line. It's not this layout. No. Well, we could use this as an example. That's fine. Yeah, this is the layout I'm thinking of. So if you guys remember this layout, this bunker was a sneaky one. Okay, I'll try to provide some more context of what I'm looking at. So that wedge was a bunker that a lot of times people, the number 2s in the Doritos, would try to get to early. Okay, so that even though you might beat your guy heads up and take this bite safely, that second bite is not safe. Or let me see, actually, just so I'm actually remembering what the angle is. Okay, it's past the baby Dorito. Okay, cool. So here's a perfect example of what I'm meaning. Okay, so on this layout in particular, this first bite was not hard to make. And in many cases, you could make it for free as long as you knew where this guy was. We called this the China. If you knew the China was hot, this bite is not safe. If you knew the China was not hot in the early game, that first Dorito is super easy to get to. Okay. Now, we know that the Dorito 3 in this layout is really good. The Dorito 3 is really, really good. But if you try to make that bite after, this guy is going to chop you up. I believe that's the angle that you can see. Okay. Which means that in a lot of points, you might be here and you might not be getting shot at. You can't see your heads up guy, but you don't know if there's a dude here or not because you can't see him. And you needed somebody cross field, either in the snake corner or somewhere in the Scod bunker, or somebody who ran up to the China to see if this guy filled up, right? You need to know, essentially, where is this guy? Where's the number 2 on the Dorito side? If I don't know where he is, this move is not free. If I know where he is, this move can or cannot be free. Okay, I hope I'm not losing you guys in the weeds. This is very, very, very important to understand. Okay, because this bump is super free otherwise. And in fact, I have a really, really good example of this against New Orleans Hurricanes. So I don't know. I gotta fix my hard drive or something. It's like loading super weird. Okay, I believe it is this one. Okay, so here's the layout. So here we are. Okay, so I knew that we had to pull up short. This Dorito run, super dangerous, especially against New Orleans Hurricanes. This is a very, very tough bunker to make. And they were pulling up short, and oftentimes they were actually shooting a cross shot that was like super deadly on the guy trying to go up to the China. And so I started to match this guy heads up, and I'm pretty sure it was C right that I played most of the time. So I get into this bunker, I beat him heads up. I wrap on the inside guy wherever he is in the can. This is actually FSU Notorious, Austin Notorious that we're playing this point. So I wrap on him. I make this Dorito one bite. I'm owning what's in front of me right now, okay? I'm owning the real estate. I took the bite. I instantly challenged, beat the guy in front of me. I now wrap to try and find the number 2 on the snake, number 2 on the Dorito side. I put paint where I know he is, which is a blind shot over a pin into this second can. But then watch what happens. Wrap, go. Okay, my eye is downfield, down range. Look at that. He was at, so this is actually the beast. He had moved. So he was not in the blind shot that I was shooting, but as soon as he saw me take the bite, he took his bite. Okay, and that's another key thing we'll talk about here in a second. And now I am thinking, well, when I had my eyes down range, he was at the can, or I didn't see him make it. I didn't see him make his move. I had my eyes downrange the whole time. I didn't see him make his move. But guess what? I hesitated. See, I'm looking for him. I'm still thinking he's here. Boom. Instantly chopped up. Absolutely murked by that guy. Okay? This is probably the best clip I have to illustrate this point. So, why is this important? Well, this is important because in that clip, I absolutely dominated the guy in front of me to make those moves. There was no question about it. I won the gunfight. Put him in, go. Put him in, go. Put him in, go. And that is, when you start practicing your mechanics, you will find that you can beat the guy in front of you a lot of the time because a lot of people aren't putting in the work like you might. But that's not always what's the thing you need to consider, right? Again, we're trying to find out when should I make my move. So this is all a way of saying that you should find out which moves are effectively free, as in which moves can you make with just gaining the intel that's straight in front of you. So in other words, I see there's a guy in front of me in the Dorito that's matched up, right? These two Doritos can see each other. So I know where he's at. He's either there or he is not. And then if I wrap, I can see the guy behind him. I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but because this layout, that's kind of a blind shot that you see over the pin. But if you wrap and you see, and you know you can see the guy behind him or the number 2, then that is a pretty straightforward heads up push, okay? And let's say that there's no real middle bunker that's going to threaten your move right here, okay? So that means that if you beat this guy in front of you, it's a simple wrap and go. And this is something you can do almost regardless of what the score is. You can make this move when it's 0, you're down 2 points, 0-2. You can make it when it's 0-7. You can make it when you're 5-4, literally 6-0. You can make this move every single time, okay? Because you know the problem in front of me is obvious. I can see it. I'm privy to that information without any of my teammates' help. The second move, however, from here to here, the Dorito 2 to the Dorito 3, is where we have to know a very crucial piece of information, regardless of if we beat the guy in front of us, okay? So that means that, well, okay, so now I guess we can answer the question, does that mean, should I be gunfighting this guy then? Does it matter if I beat the guy in front of me? And the question you have to ask yourself is, are you the one who's containing the player in front of you or not, okay? So here, let's illustrate a point, okay? Let's illustrate an example. You guys better buckle up because we're getting real deep in this one, okay? So let's say, for example, I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say that if you were in the Dorito 3 and they were in the Dorito 3, you could see each other, okay? Let's imagine that you could see each other. I'm not saying you can, but let's imagine. Now, let's say that they have a player in this position. We'll draw circles for them, okay? So they have a guy in here and a guy here, and you don't know where the number 3 is. It doesn't matter where he's at. Now, we've established that this guy is the one who's stopping me primarily, and that if I wrap really hard, it's pretty dangerous. And in fact, we could even back this up one further. Let's say they're in the Dorito 2, I'm in the Dorito 2, and he's in this wedge right here. Now let's pretend we can see each other. Heads up. Well, we've already established that if I take this bite, this guy's going to kill me, and I can't retaliate, right? So I don't know if you guys know this, but like, if I wrap, I can't really see him. See this? That Aztec is blocking me. right here. And he could actually be standing up right here, and I'd have no idea. And he could be shooting at me right here. Okay? These are, I don't remember, there's a term for this. I used to use it last year. I don't remember what I call these. But these are just like unprotected bumps. They're ones that your teammates cannot help you with. And they're ones that you can't check off safely. Because by the time you have that intel, you have to commit to the move. Okay? I guess they had, what we could come up with a term for this. Be like a committed and an uncommitted move. But in any case, so does that means that if I beat the guy in front of me, I don't gain anything from that. I don't earn any ground off of beating the guy heads up. There's nothing I can do as a follow-up to that, except to make sure that this guy doesn't move, which is valuable. But that's why I asked, are you the guy who's containing that person? Okay, so if, for example, you were completely mirrored up, well, now I'm chilling, dude. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fight the guy in front of me because I know that this dude has my back. This guy has the gap. He's going to stop him from moving. And what you can oftentimes do is you can set up a cross, essentially a lockdown of this little gap, this little zone right here, and protect each other, because now I'm protecting my teammate from being run down on the inside of the field, and he's protecting me from being run down on the outside. But it's essentially just making moves up the field. Okay, and the other thing I can do is I can use the information, what is straight in front of me, to help know if I should re-challenge this bunker. Okay, this happens very often as the front Dorito, but it's also true for the snake side. So please remember that everything I'm talking about is absolutely applicable to the snake side. So if I'm looking on the inside of the field, protecting my teammate, and my teammate's watching my back, and I can't move, and even if I beat the guy in front of me, making this move is kind of dangerous without knowing where this guy is and which direction he's looking. Well, that means that if I see this teammate start to flinch, let's say I can see the paint coming at him. It's ricocheting off his bunker. It's exploding off his bunker. He flinches. What does that tell me? That tells me that this guy is rapping and shooting at him. That's the only person who could be doing that, okay? So he's flinching, and he might not say anything to me, but I don't need him to say anything to me because I now know, oh, my mirror is rapping on him. And what that would cause me to do is instantly transition hands and come out and challenge, just put paint downrange. Instantly shoot at this guy. You'll be surprised at how many kills you get that way. Now, we're already deep. We're going even deeper. Against good players. Now, you know who does this really well? Go watch Yosh Designs and go watch a lot of practice footage of AC Diesel and pay particular attention to Iceman, okay? Babinski. No, it's not Babinski. That's not his last name. I can't remember. It might be. But he is very good at this. Harrison Fry is really good at this. I mean, a lot of people are really good at this in pro, okay? And what I mean to say by this is we've all established that if you're in a cross gridlocked position like this guy can see what's happening to his teammate, okay? Now, if this guy is smart, he will know this, which is not pretty hard. That's not hard to piece together, right? Because if you matched what your opponents were doing, you would see the same information. So that means that if this guy were to shoot here, he could instantly transition afterwards as soon as he got this guy to flinch and likely bait this guy out into a ball coming right at his face. And I promise you, this is something people do in semi-pro and pro. Okay? Not as often in Division 2 in my experience, but this is absolutely what happens in semi-pro and pro. People will absolutely bait you into challenging them because they know, I know he can see what I'm about to do to his teammate. I know he's going to try and help, okay? That's the other reason why in one of the clips that I shared, I think it's still on my desktop. Yeah, it's got to be... Is it this one? No, it's not this one. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I can find it really quickly. It was further in the day. Oh, it'd actually probably be cooler to watch from a barrel cam perspective. So I don't have very many videos. Yeah, is it this one? Okay, so this you can't see his perspective, but what's happened in this is essentially the Lone Star layout. It's kind of a bastardized version of it. But what has happened is I know there's a guy in the 50, which is past this Dorito right in front of me, okay? Now, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this very well, but let's see if you can. Okay, so I missed the shot.
Hey, 150!
We're using Woods ball callouts, by the way. So I know he's right heads up, okay? But I can't see him unless I step out, okay? So, but do you hear the shots? Do you hear the shots right in front of me? Listen. Those. That, right there. That. So I heard him shooting, and I was afraid he was trying to bait me into his shot. And that's why I took the challenge, right? And you could see it in a different video that's like an overhead. It might be this one. I know the quality is like super scuffed. It's not this one. Is it this one? I think it's this one. Yeah, so watch. So I missed that shot right here. I missed that shot right here. And then he shoots at me to get me to go in. And instead of earning that, he just keeps shooting on the inside. See that? He actually did try to do it for a second, but he shot on the inside and then shot heads up to try and bait me out of it. But then he keeps shooting on the inside, and he stays committed to that shot. And that's why at a certain point, I'm like, oh, he's not going to shoot back at me. So then I snap out and kill him. So just know that this is something that people do absolutely do in high level, and it's something to be very, very aware of, okay? How can I like possibly incorporate all this information, you might be asking yourself. The biggest thing is you just have to think. You have to think, and you have to be able to dissect a layout in an intelligent way, okay? And again, if you want any help with breaking down layouts or whatever, join the Discord server, send me the Guns Up link. I can't always guarantee that I will give it like a super in-depth breakdown, but I will almost always cover any major regional tournaments and any NXL events on stream, okay? Because we go over those key bunkers. And certainly like just playing a layout is going to help you learn this information more than anything else, okay? Okay, so we've talked about when to move, when not to move. Now, let's say, for example, let's say this read and react that we talked about originally, let's say we were up 6-3, okay, with, let's say, 2 minutes left. This will make it super obvious, okay? And we did establish that this is a pretty safe move because I know what's in front of me. But what context has now been injected by this information here to the left? The context that is injected is that these guys have to do something if they want to win, which means that middle guy is likely coming towards us. It could also mean that the number 2 is going to make some kind of crazy move up the middle, or both, okay? It's totally possible. So that means that even though we've established that in the early game, it's pretty safe to make this move because you can beat 2 people in front of you, it's probably not very safe in the late game, or rather later in the series when it's like 6-3 and you know they're coming for you. You can just chill, man. You can just chill back, right? So when you get to this bunker, all you're doing is trying to stop the guy in front of you, okay? Just keep him here. Keep him at this line as best as you can. If they break past it, you need to make sure that somebody has the safety, okay? If nobody has the safety, then you have to match that move. So if you don't have anybody, excuse me, on the inside of the field to watch that guy's progress as he moves up the Doritos, if you don't do anything, you're just giving away the point, essentially. You're just giving them the ground that they want and are possibly going to kill you off of that. So, okay. PB Ninja says, I'd recommend everyone watch layout breakdowns, even if it's not your layout. It's one of the best ways to learn the approach and mindset of breaking down a layout. I appreciate that, man. It is a lot of fun to do, and people are pretty receptive, which I appreciate. Supreme PB, what up, man? How are you? Okay, so let's inject some more context. Let's say that, let's see. By the way, if you guys, while I'm doing this, if you guys have things you want to give me, if you want to say, here's the scenario, it is 5-4, so much time left, and let's say the Dorito player is better than you. What would you do? Or let's say you're better than the Dorito player and you're up 6-2, or you know what I mean? Like, if you want to ask me these different contextual examples, I will absolutely run it through right now. So feel free to do that as I'm talking about this. Don't give me like random crap. Like, give me things that you actually have experienced, and we'll see what we can do with it. Okay. So I did have an experience. I'll say this. Okay. I'll try to be as ambiguous as I possibly can. At World Cup last year, we played against Jesters, and Jesters is a great team. They're like a pretty consistent Sunday club team. At least in the year that we saw them play. They're great guys too, super nice. And their Dorito player was was great. He was one of their, not one of their better players. They're all really good, but their Dorito player was good, and we felt as though the Dorito player was the one that was winning them their points. We felt like that was the reason they were winning. So you have a couple of options as the guy who's fighting that dude, and I was the guy fighting that dude. I either can choose to give up whatever pressure he wants to apply to me because he's the one that's winning them the points. And the reason, the way that we evaluate that is, well, they're winning off of the Dorito side, okay? And obviously that's as much as I'm telling you right now, but there was a lot more context to that. So for example, and this isn't the World Cup layout, but like they were killing me off the break. I was dying because that middle guy had the shot dialed in, killing me going out to the Doritos. So my survivability was leading us to lose the points because the Dorito player would then close the game. So what I said is, well, okay, we're down like 3 points. I don't remember how the series actually shook out, whatever. But I'm pretty sure we lost 7-2, maybe 7-3. I can't remember. You guys could find it on PB Nation or PB Leagues. I don't remember, but I think it was closer than that. But anyway, so I decided, and I told Coach, like, hey, we got to do something. I have to gun battle as much as I can, and I know I'm a good gunfighter. Like, I've been told as much by Ryan Greenspan and Tyler. Actually, I don't think Tyler Harmon ever said that to me, but I know what I'm doing. Oh, Rusty Glaze has said that about me. So I know, I at least have the confidence to be like, I can beat this guy. And if I can contain him and I can survive, we can at least hold out the point. And all of the points that we won, which was only 3, all 3 points that we won, I was alive and closed out on the Dorito side of the field. I believe there may have been 1 point that wasn't the case, but every single point I would gun battle this guy to my absolute death or not, and I would close out the point afterwards. Okay, and so certainly it's really obvious, right? If you're down 7-2, it's pretty obvious that you're going to be hyper aggressive. Okay, but that's why what's really important is that at 0-0, if you want to hedge your bets, play read and react, right? If you want to win Division 4, 3, 2, hedge your bets and play read and react paintball. Make the most correct decision possible. If you want to win in Division 2 and higher, you have to make things happen. You have to make opportunities happen. And what that looks like is you being hyper aggressive at 0-0. Make your opponents stop you. Force them to stop your progression. And if they don't, you'll win the series 6-0. Or I guess in Division 3 it's like 5-0 or something. Make them stop you. If you think about what it would be like to play against Russian Legion, do you think Russian Legion would just like sit back in their primaries and just shoot people out of their bunkers? I mean, they might. They probably could. They could probably shoot everybody out. Got to do the NR blind layout for this weekend. The blind layout, huh? If you guys send me the link, I can cover that. Whenever they make the link. Don't send me pictures. I don't do pictures. It's like super, super hard to do anything valuable with pictures. So if you get a Guns Up link, I will absolutely cover it and share that on the Discord server. But against a team like Russian Legion, those guys are probably going to run at you with like 4 to 5 guns up, and they're just gonna win their gun battles and then just wrap and go, and they're gonna play essentially hyper aggressive, correct paintball. And as long as they minimize mistakes and capitalize on your mistakes, they'll win that. But when you start getting against teams that are like really equal in skill at any division, especially, pro, right? We're talking about now Russian Legion, let's say Houston Heat. Okay. Those teams are now, it's an ebb and flow sort of battle. What's at play here is tendencies against the guy in front of me, what the series is, what they're likely going to do in that situation, and what is the obvious thing to do and what is the non-obvious thing to do. So, for example, this is what I mean by metagaming, okay? Let's say, this is classic with Russian Legion, and this is kind of why maybe it doesn't really work for them anymore. But in the case where Russian Legion is up, let's say 7-4, has anybody ever seen Russian Legion sit on their heels? Ever? In any situation? Because I don't think I have. And if Russian Legion was up 7-4, those guys are still coming down your throat. Russian Legion is still going to push you. Against other teams, however, they might sit back with their comfortable cushion lead. They might be like, hey, we're 7-4. We still got like 8 minutes left in the series. Oh, that's not 8. We still got 8 minutes left in the series. Let's just chill back. Let's make them come to us. And in many cases, that would be the smartest thing to do, right? It'd be at least the safest thing to do if you're hedging your bets. But that's why against teams like Russian Legion, like Houston Heat, okay, those guys, what they're doing is saying to themselves, okay, Houston Heat is 4. Russian Legion is 7. What is Russian Legion going to do? If we're looking at this from Houston Heat's perspective, what is Russian Legion going to do on this next point? Well, Russian Legion has a history of still running at us if that's the case. Now, what happens if we match that aggression? Or what happens if we try to overpower that aggression and we have all of our guns up to match it? Well, now we're going to make a game plan that has 4 guns up. That's going to be like a big push to the Dorito side and a huge bite to the snake corner or whatever. And that's how we're making our game plan decisions, is based off of our opponent's tendencies, what they're likely to do in this sort of point breakdown scenario with like 8 minutes left. Okay. Now, when you get below, I would say when you're below Division 3, these considerations are probably very meaningless, unless you're going against like if you ever play in the WCPPL and you scrimmage against, or you play against teams that are coached by like Marcelo, Corey Field, other pro players like Tyler Harmon and stuff. Those guys are going to be making those calls. Okay, what should we do when it's 2-8? What's this best play? What's the unexpected thing to do? What's the unexpected thing to do? Those are what those coaches are going to be thinking of. But when you're like player coaching, playing against player coaches or just like random people, you don't really need to make these types of considerations at Division 4 and 5. Okay, if you do, that might serve you, but it's also you might scuff yourself, right? So like, let's say for example, if you were up, let's say you were up 6-2 in Division 4. Okay, you're up 6-2. There's like 8 minutes left. Well, they will probably say, oh, these guys are going to sit back on their heels. Like, let's make a game plan around that. But what happens if their game plan's like really bad, even just to begin with? What happens if they just like have 2 guns down running down the Dorito side? And in your mind, you're thinking, well, they're going to come at us, so we should counter back or whatever. You probably don't need to do that. You just need to have your guns up. Just play correct paintball. So anyway, I'm done with that rant. I'm done. Okay. Cover the SPL layout, please. It dropped today. Didn't I cover an SPL layout just recently? Is there another SPL? Like, I thought I did SPL with 3-mans. I don't remember what SPL paintball... Is it SPL Paintball League? I'm not going to do it on stream right now. I just am curious to see. Oh, SPL Summer Jam. It just dropped today. Interesting. What time is it? 9:40. We'll cover this. I can cover this like tomorrow, maybe Saturday. But yeah, I won't be able to do it today. Social paintball. Okay, cool. So anyway, okay. Do you guys have any questions? I hope that at the very least, obviously I'm not going to be able to cover like everything to consider when you're playing in a front player position. And obviously, we really only talked about Doritos, and I kept saying it's applicable to Snake. There's a few other things to consider with the Snake, but it's mostly like... It's really just about timing. Snake is a lot about timing, because in many cases, the Snake is like a true tape, so you guys can see each other all the way down the Snake, and you really just need to be paying attention to where your heads-up guy is shooting. As far as the middle is concerned, the middle, as far as when you can move and where to move, is an entirely bread and butter, like... How early into the game are you? Okay. So if you make any sort of moves within the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point, you are very safe to do that in the middle. Okay. The only people that are going to stop you if you make a move in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point up the center are those who are deliberately trying to stop that move from any sort of inside angle. Okay. Those are the only people that are going to shoot you, or your guy heads up if he sees you. But that's why, as a middle guy, if all you do is you check off what's on the outside and then wrap on the inside and go and look for the guy that's playing your same position, you're pretty safe to make your move in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point. Okay. This is the early game. 5 to 10 seconds. Early game stretches out to as far as 30 seconds. And all that really means is that as long as people are still making movement relatively freely, you haven't controlled the field, and therefore you're not in the mid game yet. Like, people can win the point going from early game straight to late game because they're chopping you up, and you don't know where they're at, and you don't know how to stop them. So I'll read chat in here in just a second. But as far as making moves up the middle, anything after the first 20 seconds of the point becomes way more dangerous, and you really need to do your due diligence at checking off where people are and then making sure not to hesitate. And avoid taking big bites, okay? The middle is one of those places where you can't really afford to take big bites after 20 seconds unless you read something very specific and you react to it. Okay, but if you just make this move blindly, you're gonna die. You can make a lot of blind moves in the first 10 seconds if you studied your layout really well. Okay, Garrett says, hey yo, this has been awesome. Got a question that's gunfighter related but potentially using a layout. This may be a Discord convo, but if not, at MSXL 2 weeks ago we found there was weirdly a lot of gunfighting cross field from those key bunkers. There was a Dorito snake side. Wait, MSXL. I covered that, I'm pretty sure. Let's do this really quick. No, it wasn't MSXL. I covered the MXBL. Dude, there's so many of them. MSXL. Let's see. Gunfighting crossfield from those key bunkers. There was a Dorito snake side at the 40 or so people would make on break. By the time we could push D side, you had to fight them to make it anywhere. Was wondering if you could take a look at it and see if we were reading it wrong / what your approach would be. Just found you today. Actually goated stream so far. Hey, Bebo, thanks, buddy. Hopefully you caught the actual like live portion of it where I actually stood outside and yeah, I did that. So wait, I'm gonna read Supremes and then I'll answer your question. I'm whatever in the Discord, and I genuinely look forward to your live streams every week now. Definitely something to look forward to as the work days pass. Hey, Supreme, I appreciate that, buddy. You've been a really good supporter of the channel, man, and I really appreciate your kind words. So thank you. Okay, so I see this Dorito. So I assume it's this gap, right? Gunfighting crossfield from those key bunkers. There was a Dorito snake side at the 40, so people would make that. By the time we could push the D side, you had to fight them to make it anywhere. Oh, maybe it's right here. Maybe this is the gap. Right here. So this is what's called, I don't actually have a term for this. I need to come up with terms, guys. You guys need to help me come up with some terms here. So this is like a time-oriented hold, okay? So imagine for a second that this guy's gridlocked, okay? He's absolutely holding this zone, and if you pass this, he's absolutely holding this zone, okay? Now there are two things to remember with this. In any sort of situation like this, these are gaps in which you have to essentially be sending paint down range for you to even be able to kill them, with maybe the exception of this gap. And I only say that because if you take this bite really quickly, like super aggressive and Superman dive into this bunker, that guy's not going to kill you most of the time, okay? Especially if you have proper slide form, you're sliding early and fast, you're going to be too low for that guy and too fast for that guy to be able to shoot paint as a response to seeing you make that move. So in this case, to hold this angle, unless the gaps were totally much wider at your field, I would say that if you're dying making this move from the guy in this position, it's because you ran into his paint or you were too slow making this move, okay? In the case where he's shooting you here, this is, again, another one of those where, at least from this angle, this is a great enough distance and a small enough gap that he would have to be shooting paint at you before you could, for him to actually stop you from making this move, okay? Now you might say, well, okay, yeah, that is true, but like that was the problem, okay? Well, let's pretend that you're in this bunker, okay? Let's imagine that you're in this Dorito. Man, I hate the bright red, dude. I absolutely hate the bright red. Okay, so I'm in this bunker. I see paint splashing. Okay, I see paint splashing right here. Now, there's a couple things you can do, okay? Depending on where this paint's splashing and depending on if you wrap, you might find that the paint is landing as high as like here, like it's coming across high, or it's landing kind of low for the landing zone, okay? The key is find out where the paint's coming from. I watched your guide to 3v3 last week before playing my first 3v3, and your advice allowed my team to win it. Are you serious? Dude, that's what I'm talking about. Wait, are you from Australia? The Aussie Dodo? I assume, but that's a pretty gross assumption. But congratulations, man. I hope you're in the Discord. Did you share that in the Discord server? Should be in the Discord. Take pictures, share them. Okay, so in this situation, this person needs to be seeing where this paint's coming from, okay? Because there's a couple ways you can avoid it. If you find that the paint is going high or far, let's say the paint is high here and it's landing here, okay? It might even be landing kind of close to you. Well, the route I would look to take is this inside route. I would go right here and dive low. Okay, can this Dorito guy see me? Ooh, that's an impossible bunker to survive in, actually. Wow. There's no, you're not living there. No way. So you have to cross this Dorito. Interesting. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then here's a couple things to consider. Would this be a... Could he see you here? No, I think you could make that. Okay. Goat talk, you dude. Absolutely. Yes, I found... yes, I am from Australia, and I need to join your Discord. Okay, exclamation Discord, I think will give you the link. Let's see, does it? Oh, no. I still don't have the chat bot working. Okay, the Discord link is in the description of this video. So in this situation, the two things I would look at is either taking a wide route where you run out here because you're trying to dodge the low paint that's coming here. You take this route. I know it's really wide and you have to know what your guy in heads up is doing, right? This isn't free. You have to earn this. Where are you from, brother? I'm from Utah. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. Well, I'm from California, but I've lived here since I was like 8, so I'm from Utah. But if the paint is going high, okay, if the paint is going higher in this landing zone right here, I would just take this bite, dude. I would come here. I would come on the inside, and then I would run and take this bite here. Go really low and dive. Now, this is close enough that you might die here, okay? If he's shooting at you already, you're dead. But his reaction time would need to be pretty average to probably kill you here, but I still think you could. This is a better move because look at this. Look where he sees me is right here. Okay, where he sees me right here, I'm diving. I'm already diving well before this. I'm diving right here to get to this bunker. He doesn't see me right now. I dive, I get here, and now all of a sudden, boom, I'm super safe. Okay, so that would be, this bunker is really bad to get to if they get to that 40 Dorito. But I think you have two routes inside. I think you have a route outside. This Dorito is impossible to live in if they're in that 40 bunker. If you get there before they do, blast them. If not, yeah, you're toast. Just super toast. So that's probably what I would have looked to do. You could also do the situation where this guy actually becomes your number 2. So this guy's the guy that holds his position, and the guy that's working the inside of the field, maybe he's right here, comes up, tries to dig this dude out, get him to flinch, and as soon as he gets him to flinch, he takes the bite. Or, you know, because you can't, this isn't the move. You can't make this move. This guy will kill you if you do. So it might be that you just hold him for a second, maybe even come here, still trying to fight him, don't see, wrap. Who do I see? Depending on where the number 3 is. If the number 3 is still at the home and the number 1 and the number 2 are over past this line, this inside route is super safe because now all of a sudden, look, you can start edging him out. Come to this pin, boom, snap him out. That's, dude, if you want to see who does that really well, GJ Sakaguchi does that super well. He is the king of shadowing bunkers. So pay attention to him. Okay. Nice. I'm down in Houston with the Phantoms. Love the talk and strats. I enjoy the theory and I try to implement it into play sometimes. The reading and shooting Dorito off the flinch was a good explanation. Yeah, I appreciate that, Diesel. Thank you. I'd love to find myself in Texas sometime next year to play at PB Fit. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I know it's not in Houston, right? I know it's at Wichitachi or Wix something. It's a W. GJ Hawaii stand up, dude. DJ is a homeboy, dude. GJ is an absolute homie. If you see GJ, tell him Steven from Bro Army says hi and that he loves him. But in any case, come shoot some paint at Texas Legends, dude. I'd be so down. Okay, guys, we've talked at length for an hour and 50 minutes. Waxahachie, is that how you say it? We will be there we will be there in a month for a 3v3. Thanks a ton. Absolutely, Garrett. Thank you so much, everybody who has been here for the stream. What a perfect song to end the stream on. Guys, this has been a hype, amazing, absolutely amazing stream. Thank you guys so much. If you're new here and have not liked the video, please do so. It helps me out a lot. Leave a comment in the video as well, letting me know what you learned from this. It is always helpful to know what people, you know, benefited from the most so that I can tailor my streams based off of that. If you guys want to tell me or you want to inform what we'll cover in the next live stream, join the Discord server. That is literally the only way that I will cover anything you want me to talk about. So please join the Discord server. It's in the description link below. Again, if you guys find this content very valuable, consider subscribing, consider becoming a member. It's only $3 a month. I actually need to double check that. I'm pretty sure it's $3 a month. Otherwise, you can become a super valuable player or SVP, huh? My name is Stephen Von Peterson, or super valuable player. consider becoming a supporter or a super valuable player. It helps me out a lot. It lets me focus more of my time and attention on this. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much. I should be on tomorrow live streaming some video games, but I got to figure out what the plan is. I got to go do some stuff with the field, the paintball field in my area. We own a private field. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the Discord server. See you guys.